Shannon B. Douglas, Winnipeg. This is while we were asleep. Winnipeg is the geographic center of North America. I've been here a dozen times for work over the years. And mostly only seen the downtown core of the city. We had a corporate event once at the National Human Rights Museum, which is the only national museum outside of Ottawa. Walking along Israel Asper Way here in Winnipeg today. Sunny Monday afternoon. Just like last time I was in Winnipeg on Monday, where I had a little bit of time where I could have gone into the museum. It's closed. It's quite a spectacular piece of architecture. And let's see here if I can give you a bit of a view. There we go. It spirals inside. So we have the entrance up behind me now. And you enter it, and the exhibit starts in broad open spaces with some very interesting use of negative space. And it ascends. It's an architectural ascension, beginning with the early documentation of our first concepts of individual rights and freedoms. And some of those freedoms are tied to the notion of what justice is for humanity and for individuals. And up until about 1,000 years ago, actually, let's call it 900-ish, with the Magna Carta, conceptually, we didn't really have much as human beings in terms of our sense of what individual freedoms were. Most of human governance and leadership was arbitrary and capricious, driven by power and desire and abuse and control. Might makes right. Up until that point. But after the Battle of Hastings in 1066, and after a bunch of politicking and trying to make amends and sort things out and create some sort of justice, and to unite the United Kingdom. Now look, I'm not a historian, and someone else could explain this way better than me, but after that period of time, it became evident that there was something necessary for humanity, for the citizens of the United Kingdom at the time, to build some trust again in their governance and their leadership, to know that their property couldn't be seized arbitrarily, to know that they couldn't be jailed without a trial or without evidence, and that they had a right to a jury of their peers. They had a right to be heard and a right to be defended, instead of just being subjects of the Lord, the Laird of the land. This was a moment in human history that moved us forward. Up until that time, the normal rules of might is right had some breaks. The Christian concept of love thy neighbor and forgiveness and the Good Samaritan and the parables of let's all just get along were important milestones. But as we know, there are a lot of people who follow a religion but who don't do its precepts justice. Now, previous to that, in the classical age and going back into ancient Egypt, the concept of justice was a little bit different. We had a common sense of justice in the Mosaic law that you took an eye for an eye, and there were formulas for that in the Torah, in the book of the law, and in some of the more ancient written documents of law, like the Hammurabi Code. A bit like some insurance policies today. If you accidentally get your hand cut off at work, you get $25,000. And if you cut off both hands, you get $75,000. And if you lose one eye and one ear, you get $17,532. Those were the kinds of laws. And they were different for different people. So if you were a subject of the king of Babylon, or you were a property owner, you had different recourse, and the penalties were stiffer for sinning against you than for somebody who was not let's say, a member of the realm. And so the museum spirals upwards, up. See, up. And when you get to the top, you move into the present age. The idea of justice has evolved a lot. Unfortunately, what we call social justice now resembles a lot of mob justice over time. And we didn't ever really celebrate the idea of a trial in the town square and the public square. But that's what happens, and that's what's happening now on social media and in many places like universities in Canada, where wrongthink is met with mobbing and public attacks and destruction of reputation and a circumvention of the whole concept of a trial by jury, of presenting evidence, debating evidence, being able to present a defense, and having a legitimate pathway to making oneself whole in the face of false accusations. Now it doesn't matter. False accusations fly, and the media, the social media, the mob, the cancel cult comes for you, and once they get a hold of it, it's over. There is little recourse. It takes only moments for a reputation to be destroyed in today's society, and it can take years to get that back and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I recently learned about a case in Alberta where a person was running for the UCP, the United Conservative Party of Alberta, to become a member of Parliament. They spent almost a year knocking on doors and building their campaign base, and they were doing very, very well. And then, days before the election, false accusations of Nazi sympathies surfaced suddenly and surprisingly. Wow. When the incumbent was an NDP cabinet minister for the province. And that person is still, years later, I think that was 5 years ago, is still suffering the consequence and is taking their case for libel because the news media, the television stations, the newspapers failed to accurately fact check and publish this disastrous accusations, and not only destroyed this person's campaign, but destroyed their livelihood, and destroyed their social circles, and destroyed their family relationships and their friendships and their ability to work. That's how fast and hard the cancel cult hits people. Here we go. Yeah. In Canada today. In Canada today, that is unfortunately all too common. All too common. Our sense of justice, our rights, the concept of our rights, our individual freedoms, and our abilities to protect ourselves against these kinds of capricious attacks have been taken away. They've been forgotten, and group identity rights have replaced them. And so people are being slurred and attacked, and their reputations destroyed, just like in witch hunts, just like in in the Middle Ages when false accusations hysterical accusations could whip people into mobs and mobilize them in the town square. Hi there. There we are. My name is Shannon B. Douglas. This is while we were asleep.